My husband yelled, "Turn the car around. Now." Not whispered, not suggested. Yelled like something was on fire and only I couldn't see it. I didn't ask questions. I just did it. Slammed the blinker, swerved off the highway, heart pounding, mind blank. The kids jolted in the back seat. Logan's voice was still echoing in my ears as we coasted onto the exit ramp. I glanced at him, expecting fear or confusion, but all I saw was certainty and something else. Rage? Grief? I couldn't tell. We were supposed to be on our way to my parents' anniversary celebration. Cake, champagne, photo slideshows of their beautiful life. Instead, I was sitting in silence, my hands shaking on the wheel. I thought we were just driving to a party. I had no idea I was about to crash headfirst into the truth. What I discovered next changed everything I believed about my family. The plan was simple. Pack light, leave early, load the kids with cartoons and snacks, drive the 6 hours from Vermont to Ontario, smile politely, pretend nothing ever happened. That was the rhythm of our reunions. Scripted, predictable, emotionally padded like a cheap motel mattress. My parents had a thing for appearances, and this anniversary celebration was no different. They rented a country club. There was a seating chart, matching monogram napkins, a Spotify playlist named Whitaker Legacy. "Keep it smooth," my mother had texted me that morning. "Let's not bring up the past. This weekend is about family." Whatever that meant. I drove. I always drove. Logan gets twitchy in traffic, and truthfully, I don't trust his braking instincts. The kids, Jonah, Lily, and Max were piled in the back seat with juice boxes, gummy bears, and an unspoken pact to annoy each other until someone cried. I had hoped for peace, not magic, just a quiet, tolerable stretch of road. I should have known better. 3 days earlier, my mom had handed me a large zippered tote bag at her house. "Can you bring this in your SUV?" she asked. "We're tight on space, and I know you've got room." I didn't even glance inside. I just said yes. Of course I said yes. That's what you do when you're the reliable one. The reasonable daughter. The fixer. Back then, I still thought that meant something. Logan had looked at the bag, then at me. "What's in it?" "Probably decorations," I shrugged. "Or wine. You know how they are." He didn't say anything, but I remember the way his jaw tightened. The morning we left, my parents waved us off from the porch. My mom was in pearls. My dad had that smug, too cheerful grin he wore like a mask. Something about their smiles that morning clung to me like a sticker I couldn't quite peel off. They looked light, like people who'd just transferred a burden. I didn't think much of it at the time. I wish I had. I wish I'd asked what was really in that bag. It happened just past the border checkpoint sign. Logan had been quiet for miles. No music, no small talk, just his eyes scanning the mirrors like we were being followed. Then suddenly his voice ripped through the stillness. "Turn the car around. Now." He didn't sound angry. He sounded like a man holding a grenade and realizing the pin was missing. "What?" I glanced over, thinking I'd misheard. "Turn around. Camila, right now. Please." I didn't argue. Something in his tone sharp but steady cut through every instinct to question him. I flicked on the turn signal and veered off at the last exit before customs. The silence in the car was deafening. Even the kids stopped talking. We coasted down a quiet service road lined with trees and peeling signs for campgrounds that had probably closed a decade ago. It felt like we'd driven off the map. Logan exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for 10 minutes straight. "Pull over up ahead," he said finally. I did. He unbuckled and stepped out without a word, walked to the back of the SUV, popped the trunk. I watched him from the rearview mirror, tense, methodical. He dug through the luggage, pulled out the tote my mom had given me, and just stood there for a second, staring at it like it might start hissing. Then he came back to my window. "Can you come out here?" he said. "Logan, what is going on? I need you to see it." He wasn't panicking. He wasn't angry. He was something worse, calm in that quiet, resigned way that comes when fear turns into certainty. My hands were already sweating as I stepped out of the car. I followed him to the trunk, where the bag sat front and center. He didn't speak, just unzipped it slowly and peeled back the layers of clothes. Beneath a folded sweater mine, I think was a zippered pouch. Logan opened it. Inside were packets. Tightly sealed, unlabeled, not hidden well. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't wine, it wasn't decorations, and it wasn't legal. I didn't need a lab test to know we were one border stop away from disaster. I stared down at it, my heartbeat thudding like a war drum in my ears. My voice came out barely above a whisper. They put that in our car. Logan didn't answer. With our kids in the back seat, I added, my voice cracking. Still nothing. He didn't need to say a word. The silence said everything. I stood there staring at the bag, the truth coiling around my ribs like a snake. My mother had handed it to me with a smile. A smile. It wasn't the first time she'd asked for something and made it sound like nothing. That was her talent disguising manipulation as kindness, packaging pressure as politeness. Can you do me a favor? Always meant I've already decided for you. I started thinking back. It was a pattern, always had been. The year I got married, she offered to help with the wedding, then insisted on picking the venue, the dress, even the guest list. When I pushed back, she said I was making things difficult. When our first child was born, she brought gifts then told me I was breastfeeding wrong. When we bought our house, she offered to help with the down payment. Logan said no. I was angry at him at the time. Thought he was being prideful. Looking back now, I think he was just the first person who saw the strings attached before they pulled tight. It wasn't that I didn't want to believe she could lie. It was that I couldn't believe she'd risk us. But there it was, in the bag. Physical proof of her betrayal, sloppily hidden under sweaters and baby wipes. I felt like a fool. A grown woman, a mother of 3, still playing the part of the dutiful daughter, still hoping that maybe this time she meant it when she said, family comes first. I could see it clearly now. She didn't mean my family. She meant hers. The one where I played the reliable background character, the one who always says yes, always shows up, always bails everyone out when their chaos spills over. Except this time, it was criminal. Logan closed the bag again and stepped back. He didn't say, I told you so. He didn't need to. I felt it burning inside me already. That slow, sickening realization that I'd ignored the red flags because they were sewn into my childhood. That was the moment I stopped defending her in my head. The excuses began to fall apart like tissue paper in a storm. She didn't know. She didn't mean it. She must have been desperate. No. She knew. She planned it. And she'd chosen Mesa's the fall. I looked at Logan. He was watching me carefully, as if waiting to see whether I'd break or bolt. Instead, I took a deep breath. We're going back, I said. His eyebrows rose. To their house, I clarified. We're giving it back. He nodded. No hesitation. Because now we both understood. This wasn't about a bag. This was about a boundary one they crossed so completely, there was no going back. It hadn't started with the bag. Not really. The setup had begun months earlier quietly, subtly, like a low hum beneath everyday conversation. It was late January when my mom called out of the blue. She rarely called just to talk. Her voice was unusually light, but there was tension underneath, like someone pretending they weren't crying just moments before. She launched right in. Sweetheart, your dad made a few bad investments. Nothing criminal, she added quickly, which was the first red flag. But there's some debt we didn't expect, we're sorting it out. I asked if they needed help. Oh no, she replied instantly. We'd never ask you for that. You have enough on your plate. But of course, she was asking. That's how it always began, with a soft refusal, which somehow ended in a quiet expectation. Then came the follow-up. There is one thing, she said. Your nephew. He's been having a hard time at school. The bullying's gotten worse. I froze. Not because I didn't care I love that kid, but because I could already hear where this was going. He's withdrawn, anxious. It's heartbreaking, she went on. So we took him for an evaluation. The therapist recommended a smaller learning environment, a private school, specialized support. He's been accepted, Camila, but we have to put down the deposit this week. I didn't say anything. Just something to hold the spot. The rest we'll figure out. We always do. Always do. That phrase was the second red flag. I'd heard it my whole life after the car broke down, after the rent bounced, after the emergency favor I was guilted into. It meant, we don't have a plan. You are the plan. I looked at Logan after I hung up that day. She's asking for money without asking for money, I told him. He nodded. So what do we do? I wrestled with it for days. I loved my nephew. But I also had 3 kids of my own, and we were barely keeping up with rising costs, medical bills, soccer gear, and surprise dentist visits. Private school? That wasn't even on the table for us. So I did something I hadn't done before. I said no. Gently, but firmly. I wish I could, I told her, but we can't afford to help this time. I'm so sorry. There was a long pause on the line. Then she said flatly, of course, I forgot. You have rules. And just like that, the warmth drained. We didn't talk for weeks after that. Until the invitation came shiny, gold-edged, announcing my parents' 40th anniversary weekend. Suddenly, the mood shifted. Cheerful texts, gushing emojis, can't wait to see you, and we're so proud of the family we've built. I wanted to believe the cold spell had passed. I should have known better. Because people like my parents didn't let go of resentment. They weaponized it. And now I realized they hadn't moved on. They'd made a plan. The drive back to their house was silent. Even the kids had gone quiet, lulled into some cartoon-induced trance, unaware that we were no longer headed toward celebration but into a reckoning. I couldn't stop looking in the rearview mirror. Not at the road, at them. Their small heads bobbing against travel pillows. My children, mine, and my parents had put them in danger. When we pulled off onto the side road just a few blocks from their cul-de-sac, Logan turned to me. You sure you want to do this right now? No, I said, but I need to. He nodded. We didn't talk strategy, didn't rehearse what to say. There was no plan, just one intention. Return what wasn't ours, what should never have been given. Logan lifted the tote from the back and held it like something toxic, like it might detonate. We walked up the driveway together. Their porch light was still on, though it was late morning. A leftover glow from last night's fake hospitality. I reached under the mat. The fake rock was still there. My dad's idea, he'd once called it tactical security. Right. The door clicked open. The house smelled like coffee and too much carpet cleaner. The silence inside buzzed with familiarity. We didn't go far, just enough to step inside, place the red tote at the foot of the stairs, and back away like it was a landmine. Logan closed the door gently. Locked it. And we walked away. Back in the car, I stared at the dashboard. I couldn't drive yet. My hands were trembling. My phone buzzed. Mom. Then again. Dad. Then again. I didn't answer. Neither did Logan. Because we knew. We knew what they'd say. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? They'd pretend they didn't understand. But they did. A few hours later, when the kids were asleep and the house had settled into its nighttime hush, I finally picked up. My mother's voice was artificially bright. Oh, honey, we were so worried. You just disappeared. I said nothing. Is everything okay? Still nothing. Then she asked it. The bag? I let the silence stretch, then said, flatly, we dropped it off at your house. Pause. If it was that important, I added, maybe you should have taken it yourself. Another pause. No denial, no shock, just a subtle inhale, that faint catch in her breath. She knew. She knew exactly what I meant. And she knew I knew. "We're not doing this," I said. "Don't call again." Then I hung up. No screaming. No big confrontation. Just a line drawn. A door shut. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't wonder if I'd made the right call. They didn't wait long. 3 days later, a knock rattled the front door. No warning, no call, no text. Just a ding-dong like this was an Amazon delivery, like they hadn't nearly detonated our lives with a duffel bag and a smile. I knew it was them before I looked. There's a kind of pressure that lives in the air around toxic people. You don't have to see them. You feel them. Like static. Like the low hum of a wasp nest behind a wall. I stepped outside, closing the door firmly behind me. There they were. My mother in her Sunday best, pearls and posture. My father in a pressed button-down like he was about to host a barbecue. "We wanted to check in," she said, voice sugary. "We thought maybe we could clear the air," my dad added, rehearsed and hollow. I said nothing. My arms crossed, my spine locked. They hesitated. Then my mother spoke again. "We didn't know how much you understood." There it was. The tell. They weren't denying anything. They were testing the limits. How far had I gone? What had Logan told me? What would I admit to knowing? "You mean the bag?" I asked. No response, just the twitch in my father's jaw. "You put it in our trunk," I said, voice even, "with your grandchildren in the back seat." My mom blinked, like she wanted to cry but forgot how. "We didn't think it would be a big deal," she whispered. "It wasn't going to be anything. It was just to help us catch up on some debt," my dad added quickly. "We were desperate. You wouldn't help." Ah, there it was. The fallback excuse. You wouldn't help. As if endangering our lives, my kids' lives, was just an emotional counterattack. As if betrayal could be justified by not loaning money. I didn't flinch. "You didn't just betray me," I said. "You endangered my husband, my children." Neither of them spoke. "You risked everything," I said, quieter now. "For what? For money? For control?" They looked at me like I was overreacting, like I was being cruel. "We're done," I said, final and flat. "Don't call, don't come. You don't get to see the kids, you don't get to explain. This is over." My mom opened her mouth. I could already feel the phrases forming. "You're being dramatic. You'll come around. You always do." Instead, she just said, soft and sing-songy, "You'll come around. You always do." I didn't answer. I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door. And this time, I didn't wait to feel guilt. I didn't look back to see if they left. I didn't even check my phone. Because some boundaries don't require screaming to be sacred. Sometimes the quietest ones are the loudest of all. I thought that was the end. I really did. I thought after locking the door and cutting them off, we could finally breathe, heal, move forward. But I underestimated them. 3 days later, I arrived at the school to pick up my kids, and they weren't there. At first, I thought I was early. Then the teacher gave me a puzzled look. "Oh, your parents already picked them up," she said casually. "They said you asked them to." My body went cold. I don't remember walking to the car. I don't remember starting the engine. I just remember the sound of my own heartbeat and the terrifying throb of adrenaline kicking in. I knew exactly where they were. My parents' house. When I pulled into their driveway, I was greeted by what looked like a birthday party exploded inside their living room. Balloons, streamers, candy, toys stacked like Christmas morning. The twins were squealing with laughter. My oldest, Jonah, was building something electronic with my dad, who grinned like nothing was wrong. My mother turned to me, carving cake. "Surprise," she said. "They've missed us." I stood in the doorway, frozen. This wasn't love. This wasn't affection. This was strategy. It was bribery wrapped in frosting. Weaponized nostalgia. They'd never done this before. Never spoiled my kids. Never bought toys or hosted playdates or offered to babysit. But now after being cut off, they suddenly found their inner grandparents? No. This wasn't about the kids. It was about control. It was about rewriting the story. They wanted my children to remember them as the warm, generous ones, to seed doubt, to confuse love with manipulation. We're leaving, I said, voice low but firm. The kids groaned. But why? Lily pouted. Grandma said we could stay for pizza. We're leaving, I repeated. They didn't understand. Of course they didn't. They were being handed everything they weren't allowed before, from people who'd spent their lives saying no. And now they were saying yes? Of course it felt good. Of course it was tempting. As I herded them out, one of them Max clutched a brand new stuffed bear. Can we keep the toys? He asked, eyes wide and hopeful. I hesitated. Just for a second. Because taking the toys away would make me the villain, and I wasn't giving my parents that win. Yes, I said finally. You can keep them. We walked out. My mother called after us, her voice syrupy and soft. They'll come back to us, she said like a prophecy. They always do. I didn't turn around. Didn't give her the dignity of a response. Because this time, she was wrong. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't yell or collapse or spiral. I just sat on the edge of the bed, looked at Logan, and said, we have to leave. He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. I don't want them near the kids, I continued. Not at school, not at the grocery store, not 3 blocks down pretending to be harmless. He nodded slowly, like he'd already been halfway to the same place. You mentioned North Carolina before, I said. Your company has an office there, your parents live nearby. I wasn't ready then, I added. I am now. He didn't hesitate. The transfer's still on the table, he said. Then let's take it. No dramatics, no grand exit. Just 2 people deciding to protect their family the only way left, by disappearing from reach. We sold the house in under a month. Didn't leave a forwarding address. Blocked their numbers. Changed the kids' schools. Started over in a small town with pine trees and quiet streets and neighbors who waved without expecting anything in return. His parents lived 20 minutes away. They showed up with casseroles, not conditions. For the first time in years, I exhaled without guilt catching in my throat. One afternoon, a call came in from an unknown number. I let it ring. Later, I listened to the voicemail. A distant cousin I barely knew. Hey, he said. Your mom's worried. She said she doesn't know where you are. She said you just cut off contact. I don't know what happened, but family matters. I deleted the message. Didn't call back. Didn't explain. Because the only thing that mattered now was this. We were safe. We were free. We didn't disappear out of anger. We escaped for survival. Months passed. The quiet settled. Then, one day, I opened my email to a subject line in all caps. Emergency. Please read. It was from my brother. I almost deleted it. Almost marked it as spam. But curiosity won. I clicked. Long message. Frantic tone. Barely punctuated. The gist? Our parents had been arrested. This time, they didn't use me or anyone else. They'd tried to cross the border on their own with forged documents and enough illicit material to warrant multiple charges. No middleman. Just them. 2 people in their 60s who still thought the world owed them a shortcut. They were caught. He ended with a plea. They need help. Money. A lawyer. You have to let the past go. You're still family. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I hit reply. I wrote only one line. I did show up once. I'm not doing it again. And I meant it. Because I don't regret turning the car around. I regret not doing it sooner.